the FBI, a little bit about the CIA, and then go right into identity theft. We want to educate you, we want to entertain you, and we want to provide you with some information that you can leave here with, that if you are in a situation where your identity is stolen, you know what to do. So those are our goals for the evening. And I'm going to start off by finding my clicker and talking just for a minute about the FBI. So I'm hoping, you guys can see it over there. Good. The FBI had, prior to 9/11, 10 major divisions. And within those divisions, which changed up after 9/11, the main one was the criminal division. And the criminal division had drugs, gangs, major theft, organized crime, white-collar crime, those things that were the most like police work, violent crime, things like bank robberies, kidnappings, extortions, hijackings, those things that are federal and that have federal statutes that the FBI has been assigned to investigate the violations of those statutes. So my career began in 1977. I was a school teacher and a cocktail waitress. And that's how I got into the FBI. I was working in Cleveland, Ohio. I went to school in Cleveland. I got my undergrad degree there at Baldwin Wallace College in phys ed. And I was teaching phys ed in Berea, the Berea school system. And every year I was getting, it was a time in the early 70s of enrollment drops and teacher cutbacks. And I kept getting pink slipped every year. I was making a total of $7,000 a year as a school teacher and was barely able to make ends meet with an apartment and food, and you got to go out and party a little bit. So I was working as a cocktail waitress to make ends meet. One of the girls that I was waitressing with became an FBI agent, and I did not know that. And after a while, she sent me a letter, and she said, "I've joined the FBI, and you might like it." Well, at the time, I'd been dating a guy who was a boring stockbroker for about 7 years, was going nowhere. So Marty came back into town on a special assignment, and she introduced me to these 6 guys who were FBI agents that she was working on this special assignment. Every one of them was tall, dark, and handsome. So I was like, okay, where do I sign up? How do I join this? I want to work with these guys. So I signed up in 1977. I started taking the tests. Multiple tests to get in. I had the general knowledge test. It was like almost like an MMPI, if you're familiar with that. Math, English, science, car mechanics, geography, geology, general knowledge. What do you know in general? There was a psychological test. Are you a leader or a follower? You got to do both. In the FBI, you got to be able to run a team, but you got to be able to be on a team and take orders. So you can't have, there's no room for prima donnas. So it's an interesting psychological piece. I had to take, Patty loves this, I had to take a trigger pull test. How many times can I pull the trigger on a .38 revolver holding it shoulder high within 1 minute? It's a 4-pound pull. So pretty soon, and he's like, get it back up, you know. I passed all my, and the physical test, physical training test. Now I was a gym teacher, so that part wasn't a problem. So I passed all my tests. I went through an interview. You're interviewed by 3 agents, not 3 bosses. You're interviewed by 3 street agents because they want to know if they can work with you. They don't want to know if you're going to give the answer to the boss that he wants to hear. They want to know if you can work with them on the street. And then you go through the waiting period. And in September of 1979, because in 78 they had a hiring freeze, In '79, at the beginning of the year, I got a call saying, are you still interested in joining the FBI? Now, I had just signed up for graduate school. I had just gotten the letter that said, well, we might be able to put you in this school part-time. And I said, yes, take me. So in September of '79, I reported to Quantico, Virginia, where we have the Marine base, and the FBI Academy is on the Marine base at Quantico, Virginia. Went through 16 weeks of training, and it's firearms, fitness, and academics. And it was incredibly stressful because they're looking to see how much stress you can take. How do you react to stress? How are you going to respond to a very stressful situation? You're tested constantly, but generally it's one big test a week. If you get less than an 80%, you get one chance to make up. If you get less than an 80% again, you are removed from the academy. You get 1 hour to clear out. You don't get a chance to say goodbye to people in your class or anything. In my 12th week, I got a 79% on a law test. Now, I was a gym teacher. Law is, oh my goodness, very dry, very difficult. I studied my butt off, and I passed the makeup, but I knew I could not get below an 80% on any test, whether it was a firearms test, we're on the range every day, or any other test. In the next 4 weeks, I had to stay on top of it. Very, very stressful. I passed. I made it, and they sent me back to Cleveland. And I arrived in Cleveland in January of 1980, and I was assigned to a male agent by the name of Don Pierce. He was my training agent. It took me 5 years to get him to marry me. And we've now been married 30 years, so it worked. My persistence paid off. I had a great career, and I'm not going into a lot of detail about it. I served for 27 years. I worked my way up through the chain of command. When I came in '79, it was still a time when there were very few women in law enforcement, so I had a lot of opportunities that a lot of the women today don't have. Many of the individuals that I worked against did not believe that I was an FBI agent. So I could wear a microphone, I could carry a gun, and they weren't suspicious of me. Of course, I did a great, ooh, I'm a blonde. And I could get away with a lot of things. So I did some undercover work, and I really enjoyed it. And then I also did some major investigations involving Pentagon procurement fraud, public corruption, and white-collar crime was my area. My husband specialized in violent crime. So worked my way up through the chain of command. I ended up being number 2 in charge of the Wisconsin office. Went back to headquarters as an inspector. The inspectors inspect our field offices around the United States, and we have 64 offices overseas in 64 countries overseas, where our FBI agents do not have any jurisdiction. They are there as a liaison. They work with the local police in case there's an extradition, or if we need information, we can ask for it through our liaison officers. After 9/11, that was incredibly important. And then after being an inspector, I was sent here to Minneapolis to run the FBI office here, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. I ran it from November of 2001 until December of 2004, when I was promoted to be a deputy assistant director. And I went back to Washington. In the criminal division, it was the first time a woman had held that position in FBI history. So I was over drugs, gangs, major theft, organized crime, and criminal intelligence, and had about 2,500 agents under my purview and about 1,800 support. So it was a heady job. We're back in Washington where all the big decisions are being made. I'm briefing Congress. I'm briefing the president. It was very, very heady stuff. But after 2 years, I burned out. and I just said, I need to come back home to Minnesota. I'd left my husband here because I knew I was going to be traveling all over the world, which was incredible. And I came back home. I retired in 2006, and I can't believe I've been almost retired 10 years now. But I met Patty in 2010, and we started telling each other lies. And
She told lies, not me.
She says, well, I was trained to lie, cheat, and steal. And I said, really? I was trained to lock up people who lie, cheat, and steal. So this is going to be a hell of a partnership. Well, we found that people like hearing our stories. So we've done several presentations since then, mostly usually about the FBI and the CIA, but we have also talked about leadership. We both left at very high levels in our agencies. We've talked about school shootings, we've talked about safe travel, and we talk about identity theft. So you guys are here today to hear about identity theft, so I'm going to turn it over to Patty so she can give you an idea of what her background is, and then we'll get into the identity theft program.
You now understand why the FBI thinks they can leap tall buildings in a single bound, right? You've listened to the story and the training they go through. CIA has similar training, but not with guns and not with the physical stuff. It's more with your ability to think on your feet and stay out of trouble or get out of trouble once you get into it. I spent 30 years, 16 years living overseas and another 15 years off and on in between periods of working in Washington, D.C. The agency setup has been more or less the same. There's the four major directorates. You've got the Directorate of Administration, which has what you would think. It's got your budget and fiscal, it's got your logistics, it's got your personnel people. A little bit different. Personnel used to have to keep track of what name I was using, what I was traveling in, and what maybe my household goods were being shipped to which country in what name. So they had a sort of an extra part to their jobs. Logistics, they had to be able to deliver packages behind enemy lines, and they were very good at it. Finance people, how to move money around the world without being tracked. They're still very good at it, and they go up against these guys all the time. And in fact, you know, you hear a lot about the FBI and CIA not getting along. Not true. At one point, I was teaching the PhD of operations in Washington, including surveillance detection. In the last week of that course, the special surveillance squads from the FBI was what went up against my students. And it was important. I mean, they were going out overseas from that course to go up against some of the toughest intelligence services in the world. We wanted to give them the best surveillance that they could possibly get, see if they could beat them. And they did.
Well, now and then.
Not most of the time. Anyway, so you have science and technology. Science and technology used to be on the cutting edge and used to develop a lot of technology. Not so true anymore. Technology is developing so quickly that just keeping up with it and finding technology that can be adapted to the intelligence world is something else again. We do move satellites into different orbits and around the world and that kind of stuff. They also make disguises for people like me, and they're really good at it. Our disguise people often work with Hollywood. We're some of the best disguised people in the world. People who do clothing work with people who've been in the retail business and who are good tailors. A friend of mine got caught in Moscow. The agent had actually gotten caught, committed suicide, and they spent another 4 months trying to figure out who was the handler.
Okay, wait a minute. I have to interrupt here because she said the agent was shot. The CIA refers to their recruits as agents. The FBI refers to our officers as agents. So early on, we had to get our vernacular straight.
Right. I am not a spy.
And she's not an agent.
Officer. An operations officer. I don't know anything Uncle Sam doesn't know, so I'm not a spy. Anyhow, Marty, when she was caught, she was strip searched by the Soviets, thrown into Lubyanka prison, And the one thing they never got was the listening device in her ear, because we had disguises for our ears. So you couldn't tell, even if a woman with short hair, that we had something in our ear. Anyhow, science and technology does an analyst. Those are the all-source analysts. When we talk about intelligence, there's different kinds of intelligence. There's SIGINT, signals intelligence, MASINT. Every piece of equipment puts out a signature, an electronic signature. Those signatures can be collected and interpreted. HUMINT, that's what I did for 30 years, human intelligence. Comprises only about 10%, but it's the 10% that has their finger in the button that makes the decision. Directorate of well, it's called the Directorate of Analysis now. They do the PDB, President's Daily Brief, the newspaper, every day. The new one that was just added within the last 6 months is digital innovation. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out what they're up to. Not defense, offense. Okay? The National Clandestine Service is an offense organization.
Offensive.
One of the things I want you to notice, though, up there for sure, if you leave with no other information from this thing, FBI does evidence. It's interested in prosecutions. CIA has no law enforcement powers whatsoever, and we do intelligence. And what is intelligence? It's your best guesstimate. And there were days when I was 100% sure I'd stolen the manual for a missile system. Here it is. Sometimes 98%, sometimes 78%. When we went in and got Obama, sorry. Oh boy, is that a Freudian slip. For that one. Osama bin Laden.
Daddy, we're being recorded.
I know. Strike that one. It's the election, right? That was a dicey operation, because you could tell there were a lot of unknowns in that, just watching the news as it began to break. So intelligence is a different thing, and it's foreign intelligence. Okay, we don't produce domestic intelligence. So all those prejudices that you have, would you please park them someplace? Because I can tell you it doesn't happen. The only Americans we ever get interested in are those Americans who get themselves involved with terrorists, human traffickers, drug traffickers, or are selling secrets. Debbie can tell you of a case here in Rochester of somebody selling secrets that they caught. I was never a cocktail waitress. In fact, I was a assistant hostess at the Windjammer Lounge at the Hyatt Hotel in Washington. I was going to American University. And the waitresses were behind one time. So I said, oh, I'll take a tray of drinks and serve it. And of course, as I served it, I tipped it. And this man was wearing olives and cherries and dripping down his three-piece suit. And he looked up and he said to me, do I know you? I said, no, sir, I don't think so. He said, just checking. They never let me touch another tray, food or drinks. But I met my husband through a friend, and he worked for CIA, undercover, and was overseas. We eventually were married in Bangkok. The only thing that the local Nyampur, which equates to a sheriff, ever said to us was 210 baht, please, which is equivalent of $11. My husband declared he was sending the bill to my mother. I'm supposed to pay them. Anyway, so I got to know the CIA initially through Ken. He finished that assignment. We got back to the United States. We were back for a few months. He was traveling, and he died in Rome of a heart attack. One of those 4 days after a physical, one of those sudden death kind of things for heart attacks. And the agency offered me a job. Well, the rug's just been pulled out from under you, and I said, sure, thinking I'd be there for a couple years, and stayed for 31. Debbie and I are a bit rare. She's rarer than I am, thank you.
We haven't been cooked yet.
We had very successful careers, and basically both of us retired at the civilian rank of a 2-star general.
Well, military rank.
we're civilians, they were military. They know what I mean. When I retired, I was chief of policy for operations, which was a fabulous job. I could meddle in anything I wanted in Washington, D.C., and did so with great regularity. Anyhow,
You're good. Keep going.
I'm good? You don't want to show your video?
Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah, let's show the video. We'll move on to
Identity theft.
identity theft. We'll have questions at the end, so if you got any questions, we'd be glad to answer them, right? Oh, by the way, if you have kids who want to join CIA or FBI, they do not have to be a cocktail waitress. They do not have to marry into the Klan. There's a website, okay, for both of those organizations through which you can apply.
This is kind of an experiment, and I'm afraid that it's not set up well for the folks on this side of the room. So I'm going to show a video, and it's going to show here, because it's on a separate computer or a screen over here. So if you want to stand up, or we'll just see how this works.
She's the technocrat for this partnership. You're all in trouble.
Well, and it worked great earlier, so now I'm hoping that I don't. Olivia, where's Olivia? I think my computer timed out.
You talk too long.
Yeah. I talk too long? Are we coming up? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, can you see that at all? Okay. All right, here we go. Let's see how this works. Random people were selected. Can you see this at all, folks? Okay. Can you see it? You can't see it?
I'm cool.
Oui, oui, bien. Je hebt vriendin, Julie met liefdesleven. 3, 4.
De vierde, daar zei ik meestal over, dus dat weten niet veel mensen.
Is plus weer. Is een roosje, balkon. Nou, ja. Ik zie geld, ik zie transacties, maar kent je rekeningnummer van buiten? Ik denk dat ik het wel weet. Er staat wel negatief op je bankrekening.
Do you know your bank account? I do.
Last month, you spent 200 euros on alcohol. Vorige maand 300 euro aan kleding gespendeerd. 8. 5. Voor een huis dat van eigenaar gaat veranderen. 750.000 euro. Nou, eigenlijk. 41.
Ja.
Serieus?
Ja, dat is het. Oh man. Ah, ik vind je eng.
Your entire life is online. Be vigilant. So that takes us, if I can find my mouse. Patty,
What?
start.
Oh! It's your cue. It's my cue. Okay.
I got to turn this off.
Yeah, it's a big task. It's the button on the far. No. There's basically 3 ways that your identity can be stolen, and we put them into 3 categories. You can, there's the physical theft, there's the electronic theft, and then there are scams. Now, some of you, is everybody on internet trolling around, right? We got any non-internet people in the room? You got a couple. Okay, you're not safe. You may think you're safe, but you're not. There's other things going on. Do you use a phone?
Oh, yeah. Use a phone?
Cell phone?
Yep.
Okay.
You have a bank account? You have investment statements, bank statements, things that come through the mail? All those things, they're all your identity. The identity is the fraudulent acquisition of somebody's identity through the use of private information, and it's usually for financial gain.
So when I was
Usually.
undercover for almost 20 years, didn't meet that definition, okay? It wasn't fraudulent. Uncle Sam approved it, and I wasn't out there to steal American money.
So let's start by talking about the physical identity, and that's the hard copy stuff that you carry. How many of you have cleaned out your wallet in the last 6 months? Okay? Really, take a look at what you carry with you. Okay, when I was undercover, we did a lot of things like, okay, you got to have your driver's license, and you got to have a credit card, and then you have a lot of wallet filler stuff. You know, little other things. I mean, it could be coupons, it could be, but a lot of it has your identity on it. It has your picture. It's got some kind of a identity number. A Costco card has an identity. It's got your picture and it's got some identity on it. All those things. If you and I share this story because it happened to a friend of mine. You're got all that in your purse, women, carry a purse over your shoulder. You sit down in a restaurant, or a friend of mine sat down in a Starbucks, and she slung the purse over the back of her chair, and when they got up to go, the purse was gone. This was in Boston. She had no money. She had no driver's license. She had no way to contact the airline and say, I'm flying to Minneapolis. I don't have any way to get there. Think about what you carry with you, and carry just a minimal amount. You don't need 5 credit cards in your wallet at one time.
2 is a great plenty.
2 is plenty.
Even on a trip, 2 is plenty.
So think about what you're carrying with you and what can be stolen if suddenly your purse is stolen. I had a picture up there before of a pickpocket. Guys, be aware of that. You carry your wallet in your back pocket, and it's a nice bulge. You go to foreign countries, and man, they're on you like, well, I'm not going to, like a moth to a flame.
Careful. Nicollet Mall, Minneapolis. 6 months ago, I'm walking down Nicollet Mall. This guy unfolded. He was leaning against the side of a building. Why did I notice him? I don't know.
Training.
And sure enough, he followed John and I. And we walked down the street, and there was a Caribou Coffee. I ducked into Caribou Coffee because you can't see out the windows, right? And he walked by. He had momentarily lost sight of us. Decided to come back and check. And, of course, my brother's saying, what are we doing in Caribou Coffee? And I said, wait. We were right by the door. And I'm standing inside the door like this. And sure enough, this potential pickpocket walks in the door into my face. I thought he would wet his pants. So be aware. Don't carry a wallet back there either.
One of the things that you need to think about as well is that all these things have a magnetic strip on them, okay? Now, your banks are now in the process of sending out what we're calling chip and dip cards. They've got a chip on them, so that if you go to a vendor and you use the card and it slides in sideways, it's not a swipe like before. You slide it in, you have to leave it there, wait till the transaction's over. And it's actually generating a unique code for that particular transaction. So that's great, but it's still got the magnetic strip. And that magnetic strip has all of your information that you have with your credit card company. So it's your name, your address, your account number. It's all that information. And that magnetic strip is called a radio frequency identity. Okay, it gives off a radio frequency. The spy stores that are around sell little gizmos called skimmers. and a skimmer, they can walk up next to you within a few feet of you, and they have copied all of the information off of that magnetic strip. Now it's theirs to do with whatever they want. So we really recommend that you get these little envelopes. We call them RFID cases. It's paper, but it's got a metallic inside that protects that magnetic strip. You can pick them up at travel stores. There's a travel store called Signals that does international stuff. Magellan's is another online. You can pick up a whole wallet that's RFID, which is what I use. You can have an entire wallet. And Patty even found a vest that is an RFID vest, so you can put stuff in all your pockets. Because your credit cards, your driver's license, your passport, I mean, there's things that you don't even think about. Your Medicare card, they all have those strips, and that's all information that can be easily stolen from you just by somebody walking by you. And a low-cost solution, yes, Reynolds tinfoil works just as well, okay? So if you want to wrap your cell phone or your passport or something, Reynolds wrap works great. Yeah, tinfoil will block it as well. So we give you that as a... And by the way, these are becoming, the scanner business, restaurants, bars, airports, bus stations. Okay, they're no longer rare. They're out there, and they're being used by thieves more and more and more. More and more. So let's go. The next thing, when you throw documents out, do you shred them? Do you tear off the identifying information that's on them? I mean, I have a story. I was walking the dog one day last spring, and it was a windy day, and it was the garbage trucks, and they were dumping the big things, and all of a sudden at my feet, one of my neighbors, who I didn't know, but I'm looking down at their entire investment account. All their money, their account numbers, everything is just laying in the street in front of me. And I picked it up, and I took it to their house, and I said, I'm retired from the FBI, and I really think you need to be a little more careful with how you handle this kind of information. So shred it. My husband doesn't like my shredder. It takes too long for it to fire up and everything. He just tears the identifying information off the top and then tears it into little pieces. That's just as good. But you can't invest in a shredder. Get a shredders are cheap. Yeah, cross-cut shredder. You can burn it. You want to burn it in the fireplace? Burn it. But don't let it out there for the bad guys to get. There's a YouTube video of a guy who lost his identity. It's in London. And he is, 7 years he's been trying to get his identity back. And he's out to prove to the Home Office in London how easy it is to steal identity. And the video shows him going and getting garbage bags from different places and going through the garbage bags and pulling out the pieces of information that are clearly identity related. So be very careful of that. Be very aware that those are things that the bad guys, once you put it out at the curb, it's open for public consumption. And it may not be a homeless dude? Yeah, probably not. It may be an identity thief. Another thing to think about is how you store your private documents. One of the things that's very important, and especially for the cards that you carry in your wallet, keep a copy of the front and the back at home, somewhere safe. Or if you're worried about having it in your house that it might get stolen, give it to your lawyer, give it to your financial advisor, or give it to somebody where you know it can be maintained in a safe manner. But if it's stolen, you need to be able to have access to the numbers on the back of those cards, and you need to know what those numbers are. My friend whose purse was stolen, she didn't have a clue. She's calling USAA, she's calling these places, and they're saying, well, what's your account number? I don't know. Well, what's your PIN? I don't know. It's a very, very difficult thing. So store them in a safe place. And my story about McLean, Virginia. Yeah. I used to take a back road into CIA headquarters and through a nice neighborhood. And I went through
one morning and went to go through, police and fire trucks and yellow tape, etc. Private 8-passenger jet had crashed and wiped out a house off of the face of the earth. I mean, there was nothing left. Fortunately, the 5 occupants happened to be watching television together, and they heard a funny noise, and they ran outside. And so all they had to their name, all of them, they were in their bathrobe and slippers, and one of the kids didn't even have slippers on. And he wrote a book on how do you reconstruct all your papers, your insurance, your credit cards, etc. Where do you start? And that wasn't a case of identity theft. That was simply, how do you know all those numbers? And who to call? Do you remember everybody? So, yeah, she's saying do something about protecting the primary pieces off-site or with somebody or in a different room or someplace like that.
We have a little safe in our basement that I keep copies in.
If you've got a will, safe deposit box with the law firm that drew it up for you, whatever.
Okay, let's move on to the next thing, which in part goes with this physical review, and that is your credit card statements. When you get those credit card statements, do you look at them? Do you review all of the information that's been passed on each month? If you see anything, and this happened tonight, the valet out at the hotel where we're staying, he said to me, oh, I know. What's your big clue? And I'm like, well, review your statements and get a little packet for your cards. And he said, you know, that happened to my son. Well, what happens is the bad guys, if they can get into your account, your credit card account, they'll put on something like a 72-cent or a 99-cent. So he said he had a Cabela's card, and he said, they're going down the list. They said, we think there's been some suspicious activity. Did you buy this? Yes. Did you buy this? Yes. Did you buy this? Yes. Did you buy a 99-cent T-shirt? He said, no. What they do is, if you're not paying attention and you don't report that, the next month they hit you for $2,500 or $5,000 because they know you're not paying attention. So it's a little test. So if you see the 72-cent bill that you didn't know anything about or the 99-cent T-shirt, call it in right away. Call your credit card company, and because somebody's got your number and they're messing with you.
Does anybody here have a Nordstrom account? Well, I got a letter from Nordstrom. I had a Nordstrom credit card, one of the retail shops. And to up security, they are no longer going to give you a bill with each item purchased listed. And I thought, whose security are they up and not mine? I mean, it says, it'll say Nordstrom store number 8. Wrote him a letter and canceled the card. Just that simple. You don't help me.
All right, now let's talk about your electronic identity, because this is probably what is most vulnerable. And as you saw by the video, hackers can sit in back rooms and just play with the computers and find out all kinds of things about you that you don't even know were out there. Or they can hack into banks, or they can hack into credit card companies and they mine the information. And sometimes they save it up and they create a new identity and they start running with that. Or sometimes they'll just sell it. Like all that information that was gained out of the Target. Remember when Target had that big mess with Target? They were selling that information. And that's ultimately going to end up as somebody's new identity somewhere. Know that everything you put in your computer and your smartphone as well, it's there forever.
Period. Erasing doesn't work. The things that you buy, because it's out there. If you put it out in the internet, somebody else has got it storage. And I tell you, you got an FBI and a CIA person here. Take it to the bank. It is out there, and it is out there forever.
It can be retrieved. I mean, whether it's stored in the cloud or stored in somebody's storage area somewhere else, it's out there. So what we tell young people when we talk to high school kids, and we say, be very aware what you're putting on that computer and on that smartphone. If you're going to be bad-mouthing somebody, if you're going to be saying bad things, if you're swearing, if you're doing things, you know, maybe someday you want to apply to the FBI, or maybe someday the police have a reason to look at you and they go back and they can retrieve all that. And they can say, no, this is not somebody we want. Or it just builds up over time. So it's there forever, and you need to know that it's available to whoever has the skills to find it. So what we recommend, and it's sometimes just a stopgap, but use PINs. You know what the personal identification numbers are, right? You've got a PIN. Use it on your smartphone. Use a code to get into your smartphone. Use a code to get into your computer. My husband has an iPad. He loves to just sit down and turn it on and start working. Use some kind of, whether it's a thumbprint, they've gotten fancy now. You can put a thumbprint on it and it'll start up, so it's just you. But use some kind of security to open up that computer. Passwords. Change your passwords now and then. And don't use things like your dog's name or your husband's name or your kids' names, you know, and they like you to have symbols and numbers and mix it up. The latest thing that I heard that I think is really great is create some kind of a phrase that you're going to remember. You know, Patty likes to say, give him the one you came up with the other day. Trump hates Hillary. Exclamation, exclamation. Well, who's going to know that? Who's ever going to come up with that kind of a phrase? But you'll remember it. So come up with a phrase that you use instead of a password. And
run it together.
Yeah, it runs all together.
By the way, CIA has a website up, and has had a website up for several years. It's now up in 5 languages, by the way. And a lot of people think it's connected to the secret computer, right? The computer with the secrets on. What, are you kidding? Not going to happen. But they kept it up early on, in particular, because it kept getting hacked. By the time I retired, it was being hacked about 300 times a day. And they liked it because they were looking for good hackers. Okay? It was a recruitment tool.
One of the big things, and you hear it all the time, and you're going to keep hearing it, is don't open a link on your computer. If somebody sends you an email and it says, you know, open this link, and you don't know who sent it and you don't know what it is, don't open it. Do not open it. Hit delete. It doesn't matter if you think that friend's going to be mad at you, or just delete it, because it probably contains some kind of malware or virus that's going to infect your computer. I got one the other day from a Terry Rawlings. Now, that name is vaguely familiar. The only thing it said was Terry Rawlings and a link. I deleted it immediately. I don't really know who Terry Rawlings is. If Terry wants to send me something, he can say, or she can say, Deb, this is something you ought to take a look at.
I got a link like that from one of my brothers. Now, certainly I know who he is, but he never sends links, and certainly none without comment. Delete.
Yeah.
If it's important,
Don't open it.
we'll find it.
Those links can be really dangerous. They hold a lot of bad stuff. That's technical terminology. The other thing that you need to be aware of, and this is for how many of you do any kind of international travel? You go on a cruise or you travel overseas? Okay. Something that's very dangerous for your computer is that foreign countries like to clone our computers. In 2008, when the Olympics were held in Beijing, the U.S. State Department put a message out saying, do not take your computers or your smartphones with you to China. Because the minute you, the minute you step over get off the plane, they are already cloning everything that's on that computer and everything that's on that smartphone. So if you think about it, contacts, phone numbers, some of you do banking, all that information.
By the way, neither one of us do banking online. I'm sorry. but wouldn't dream of doing banking online. Thank you very much.
All of that information is now in their hands. They can do anything they want with it.
Debbie went off to Tashkent 2 years ago now already? A year?
Tajikistan.
Well, it's close. It's one of the Yankeestan. But she was to talk to police out there. But she bought a new computer, and the only thing on that computer was her presentation. Okay? So those of you who may travel for business, think about what it is else you're taking with you and limit it.
More like here, take your data in a thumb drive. You know, those are not as readily, because they're not giving any emanations off, they're not as readily copied. So your best bet, if you do have to take your smartphone with you, if you do have to take your computer, turn it off. You know, as long as it's in some kind of airplane mode or in any kind of mode at all, it's on and it's giving off information that can be cloned.
Particularly in airports, bus stations. It's almost automatic in a lot of these countries. And we're not just talking China. We're talking friends. The Germans do it. Okay,
Israelis,
I suspect the Italians,
Israel,
they just haven't
of course,
figured out how to
French.
exploit it.
Patty,
What? I didn't say anything.
behave yourself. The message came out recently that the Russians now, if you're taking a train through Moscow, they are listening to every conversation that's taking place on the train. So if you pull out your smartphone and you're calling somebody, there's somebody listening in and recording it.
But I like to say things about Putin.
And then I'll have to come get you out of Lubyanka. So how do you prevent it? Okay, there's nothing that's 100%. I mean, the hackers, I have a tremendous respect for hackers. They are constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly challenging. If somebody says, you know, the Apple system can't be hacked, it's a challenge that's out there and somebody's going to find a way. So it's just a matter of time. It is the most secure at the time, right now, but it's still, whatever you do, don't give out personal information. You get that phone call that says, hey, this is the Republican National Committee, and we're doing a survey, and we'd like to know how you're going to, how you feel about, let's say, Trump. Could we have your name? What's your address? How do you?
What's your age?
What's your age?
Because we're doing demographics.
Yeah. Don't do it. Just say, sorry, dinner's burning. Hang up. It's just don't do it. Don't give it out over the phone, and whatever you do, don't put it out online. Again, you put it out online, it's there forever. You put your Social Security number out there for any reason, it's there forever, and somebody can find it.
Tell them the hotel story.
Well, it's later, but we can do it now. But yeah, the story that came to me recently, a friend in a hotel room gets a call. The guy says, I'm down at the front desk, and we're having trouble with your credit card. Could you please repeat the number for me so that I can, yeah. My friend, smart enough, said, I'm going down to the front desk. I'll check it out with you when I get down to the front desk. Get down to the front desk, they said, that's not us. So somebody had randomly called that hotel room and said, give me your credit card information. We had a problem down here. I'm so sorry to disturb you. Don't want you to run downstairs. We'll just take it over the phone. Do not do it. Okay? Good. I heard you all groan, so that's good. That's a good sign. The other thing you want to do is monitor your credit report. You are entitled to 3 free credit reports a year. Free. By law. That's the number you can call, or you can go online to annualcreditreport.com, and you can access those credit reports. Monitor those credit reports, because that's your best way to find out if somebody has taken your identity and applied for a mortgage or applied for a credit card that you didn't order. and it'll show up on that credit report. So use that. It's free. It's yours. Take advantage of that. I've already talked to you about the chip cards. And the other thing is, be very aware of all of the problems that you're going to have if you go into a Starbucks or a Caribou or a Dunn Brothers or another public library and use their Wi-Fi. Because people plant things in those systems that when you access them are now downloading into your computer or into your system. So you're sitting at their computer, you go into your email, you've now just loaded something from that system into your system. So don't do it. Just be very, very aware of that. So use, a friend's. The hotels are now very aware of that, and they will give you a specific code to use. And they're very careful because if they find out that they've got malware in their systems, they're going to find lawsuits at their doorsteps. So be very aware of that.
If you've put up an internet system in your house or your apartment, please make it secure. And if you don't know how to do it, call the Geek Squad, call somebody and come out and do it. Okay, because anybody then can use that system, generally speaking, within 300 yards. And if nothing else, if they're using it, it slows your system down tremendously. So get it secure.
When I hooked up to the U of M Wi-Fi here to show the video, there were 4 Wi-Fis that popped up. Chester's, the U of M Guest, and another one. So I could have logged on to Chester's and had Wi-Fi access right here. Because I'm U of M Guest, then it went through a process to not only vet me, but also to allow me to know that it's a secure Wi-Fi. So just be aware of that. Back up your electronics regularly. Your smartphone, your computer. My laptop here, I have an external hard drive, and about every couple months I connect it up to my external hard drive so that I've got all my data and all my information somewhere else. That way, if for some reason I damage this or I get some kind of malware in it, I've got at least my data somewhere else that I can load into a new system if I have to. My husband has, I mentioned the iPad. He went from walking in the house, sitting down on the couch and turning on the TV, to now walking in the house, sitting down and turning on the iPad. So he's like addicted to it, and he has certain things that he looks at and that he likes, and about 2 weeks ago he dropped it. It went dead, deader than a doornail. So we go up to the Apple store, nothing, they can't get it to work either, it's just black, and he thinks he's lost everything. And he has no backup. So now he's learned a lesson. The interesting thing was we turned around, we bought him a new iPad, we got the insurance that goes with it, so the next time he drops it, we're all set. He bumped it on the way out of the store and it started working again. So we have 2 iPads that he's addicted to now.
Did he back it up?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, he's got a case now that we put around it, so I'm hoping that protects it a little bit. I watched the cat turn it on the other day. I said, you really need to put a code on there so you can get... The other thing that Patty and I are both very cautious of is social media. Social media is a big deal. How many of you are on Facebook? How many of you are on LinkedIn? How many of you Twitter? Tweet. Oh yeah, you're right. Are on Twitter, but you tweet. Okay.
She's not, obviously.
Yeah, no. These are fabulous. They're wonderful. But they also reveal a tremendous amount of information about you. So when you get on Facebook and you say, I'm so excited. We're leaving for Hawaii next week, and we're going with all our friends, and, we're going to be gone for 2 weeks. Do you know what you have just done? You've told the world, and you've told the bad guys where you live, how long you're going to be gone. Don't. And the big problem is kids, grandkids. Be aware of what they put on. Grandpa and Grandma are going to be gone for 2 weeks. You don't know what they put out there, so warn them as well. Tell them, please don't put anything on Facebook about us. Again, it's something that's there forever. It's something that, in a law enforcement, that's something that we go back to on all our bad guys. We arrest somebody, we look for what they're putting out in Facebook. You see it on the TV shows. That's how we figure out who you talked to last. Who are your friends? What are you telling them? Who did you agree to meet? You saw it on the video. Who's your best friend? What does your house look like? It's all out there. And there are people that mine that information. They pull it together. They get a bit here, a bit there, and they pull it all together, and pretty soon they've got your identity in a package. So beware of that. Be aware that free apps, everything out there now that you can Google and get a free app for this, or Google and get a free app for that, or you can go to the iTunes store and you can pay for an app. You're better off paying for it because it's going to be clean. The free apps can come with malware and viruses. So be very, very aware. And there are different clues, and I'm not technical enough, but to know whether it's been hacked or compromised. We also recommend, and how many of you are familiar with the OPM breach that just took place recently? OPM is the Office of Professional Management. It's Personnel Management. It's the government HR. Okay, so it's basically, and the Chinese hacked into OPM, and they got records from military and federal employees. I believe it was something like 20 million records they stole. Incredible amount. So we're all still getting messages that your information was hacked, and it was everything that was on my FBI application. So all my associates, all my friends. Now, my husband's been out of the Bureau since 1998. He got a message saying that because of me, his information was released or was hacked and went to the Chinese. So associates and family members. So the FBI has said, get LifeLock. They're getting us a discount. So it is one of those insurances that are out there. Some of them are just monitors. Now, AARP has an insurance program, and AAA has an insurance program as well, if your identity is stolen. And there's different degrees. It can be like $3 a month, or it can go up to $30 a month, depending on how much you want. But it monitors, it then tells you, reports to you when there's something wrong. And then what they do is, with LifeLock, there's an aspect that can help you reinstate your identity, rebuild your identity, and get that information back, or get a new credit card, get a new driver's license, get a new whatever. So I'm just going to talk very quickly about scams.
Hang on, Debbie.
Okay.
Before we go much further on the electronic world, I want to make a couple comments. We are in the infant stage of the internet and electronics. Think about it. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there wasn't anything. So there's going to be a huge revolution, and it's already taking place as we speak, and hopefully there'll be better security. In the meantime, governments are struggling with these hackers and the rest of it because the cost goes up. Hackers can turn off any one or all three of the electrical grids in this country. There's the East, the West, and Texas grids. Think about if you had no electricity for the next month in the wintertime. no gas, no food, no cash, okay? Those are considered acts of war. They finally decided that those were acts of war. So people are being careful, or governments are being careful about it. When Uncle Sam says that the North Koreans hacked or the Chinese hacked, rest assured that's who did the hacking. Okay, there's a facility dedicated to watching hackers who come in and go after government systems or local systems. Okay? So the topic gets real serious real quick beyond your identity theft, and I would encourage all of you to pay attention and to be aware of what's being talked about out there. It's a new world.
Patty, didn't you just say that you just got an inheritance?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I did, and I'm going to take the rest of the year off. I got notification that I got 30,000 pounds sterling. And it was sent by no less than the director of the FBI. The interesting part about it, the return address was a post office box in Nigeria.
So I know the director moved to Nigeria.
The scams are out there, and they're multiplying as we speak, right? Does anybody get a scam? Have you had any scams recently?
Scams in the mail? Yeah.
On the phone.
The big common one was the Nigerian. We've got this money. We've got to get out of the country. If you send us $500, we'll give you a cut on the 30,000 or the million that we're trying to get out of the country. I mean, that's one of the big ones. And actually, we kind of share the wealth with the other law enforcement agencies, and Secret Service is actually in charge of all the Nigerian scams. So Secret Service actually does the investigation on those. How many of you have gotten an email from a friend that says, "Help me! I've been robbed. I'm in London or Paris, and I don't have any money to get home." I got one of those from a woman that we both know at the Women's Club, and I knew I'd seen her the day before.
Yeah, that one. If you respond to that one, you can throw away your computer. It's got a malware in there that is impossible to remove, and you've got a piece of junk. And that's not rare on some of these scams. Do not respond, do not send messages, they're very serious, and they will disable your computer. And if you haven't backed it up.
I got a text from somebody who said, I have clothes on, you have clothes on, we have something in common. Text me back and we can talk. And I'm like, this is absolutely insane, because I know as soon as I text them back, I am now hooked. They are going to continue this, and it's going to keep going, so just delete. A friend fell in love online. Oh my God. She ended up losing $50,000. And she was convinced that he loved her. And he sent her a picture. Well, he sent her a nice picture, but it wasn't him. I talked to you about the hotel clerk, but the latest one, and I just got a message in email from our FBI Retired Agent Society, USAA, and now I find out that also Chase and Wells Fargo, they're sending out a message that says, your account has been temporarily suspended due to suspicious activity on the account. Update your profile by going to this link and update your profile so that we can reinstate your account. Do not do it. Right?
Absolutely do not do it.
And that just came out within the last week.
Anytime you get something like that, pick up the phone. Call the bank. Call USAA. Okay?
Call the number on the back of your card.
Thank you. The number on the back of the card, not the one they send you.
And the other thing that's very interesting, because I was told when I gave this to our retired agents, one of the guys said, "I got it, Deb," but he said, "You know what, USAA," he said, and it goes to this watch for scammer grammar. They can't, it's like pounds, sterlings. He said they didn't capitalize the two A's. So it was the right color, it was the right logo, but it was U.S. with two small A's. He said, I knew right away it was bogus. So watch for what we call scammer grammar. Okay, if your identity is stolen, here's 8 things for you to do, okay? Keep a log of every action you take, okay? Write it down, when you discovered it, who you called, get a name, write the number down, who did you tell, put down the time. I called them at noon on this date and I told them my identity's been stolen or my credit card's been hacked or whatever. Report the incident to local law enforcement. If your identity has been compromised, get a police report. They have to give you a police report. Get that police report. You need it. Then, contact a local law enforcement fraud unit. Just because you've reported it to the police and you've got a police report doesn't mean that it's going to be forwarded to a fraud unit. Okay? So contact a fraud unit and report it to them as well. Contact the Identity Theft Resource Center. It is a tremendous asset, and they will walk with you through all the steps you need to take to get your identity reinstated, and it's free. Can you see the number okay for those of you that are writing it down? You know what? I don't really know. I don't know who funds it. It might be a nonprofit. Okay. Here's the other thing. Place a fraud alert with the credit bureaus. And there's the 3 main credit bureaus. Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. And there's their phone numbers. Call them up and say, I've got an identity issue, I've got a problem, put a fraud alert on my account, on my credit. And there's different phases of that. They can stop all, they can freeze, they can isolate, they'll work with you and tell you tell them what's going on. They'll work with you. So there's the numbers. And then if it's more business related, or if it's, actually it doesn't matter what it is, if it's an identity theft situation, the Federal Trade Commission, believe it or not, identity theft falls under their purview, federally. So report it with them as well. So you've got a local notification, you've got a business notification, you've got a federal notification. And write down everything that you do. Who you talk to, when you talk to them, what date, and keep a log. Because down the road you may need it. You just don't know.
What happens? It stops you from being liable. Okay? So that's why you're keeping a record. You've notified the right people. Somebody may be out there buying a house, not you, you know.
And if it's business related, then contact the Better Business Bureau. There's also something called the Privacy Rights Clearinghouse. I'm not familiar with that, but it's something that ARP recommends that you reach out to. And then you can contact the FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, which is in West Virginia. They're probably not going to do much as far as your personal identity, but they keep a collection, and when they start seeing a trend, and if you're part of a trend, then they'll start packaging you up and they'll turn it into a major investigation, so you could end up down the road being assisted through the FBI. The big thing here, and I love that little screamer in the corner, make yourself heard. Don't just suck it up and say, well, somebody got my identity, I'm just going to sit here. Do something about it. Make sure that you protect your identity. It affects you, it affects your family, it affects your friends.
We forgot to mention one area that they need to watch out for.
What's that?
How many of you like to read the obituary page?
Oh, yeah.
I'm into it these days. No birth dates on the obituary page. Okay, no age. You know, Patty Weber born, you know, October 11th, 1967.
Making it up?
Yeah. Right. And tell your children or your grandchildren. It could cause problems for your estate. At that point, your identity could be stolen, and then all of a sudden, there's claims against your estate or whatever. So do not put birth dates in an obituary, yours or anybody else's.
And when we're talking about the physical problems of that, if you put in the address where the person lived, you know, you now know, and what we've been doing lately is making sure that somebody is left behind at the residence when there's a funeral taking place, because people do know where people who have died live. And that means that there's nobody at the house while the funeral's taking place, so they rob the house.
A few years ago, the Vikings football, there was a great scam going on. And people had programmed their residents into their GPS system. And left the GPS system in the car, or the car had the GPS system.
Wait. How many of you have a GPS in your car? Okay.
A few of you.
All right. How many of you have put in where it says home? You've put in your home address? So when you push it, it'll take you home?
So at the Viking football stadium, during the games, they're stealing the cars, getting into and pushing the home button, and they know they got 3 to 4 hours to clean that house up.
Not only that,
the football game.
They've got a garage door opener.
Yeah.
So you've just given them home, garage door, they're in, and they're cleaning out houses while people are at ball games. So another thing, when it says home, you know, put in the local grocery store, because you know your way home from there.
I put in Debbie's place, but that's right.
Probably.
Anyway, how about some questions? You act for a while, sir.
One thing, first you have Social Security card, so do not carry it. Put it someplace safe. Then years later, you become eligible for Medicare. And Medicare says, carry your card.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Social Security number with a character E at the end of it.
Oh, like that's going to confuse anybody, right?
Right. So, is there a reason that you really should be carrying your Medicare?
Medical insurance, I mean, the question has to do with, should you carry your Social Security card, should you carry your Medicare card? No. One of the big scams that's going on are the guys that get hold of medical insurance, medical identification, and then use it for fraudulent billing, for fraudulent accounts. I would say no, don't carry it. You only get one Social Security card. Put it in a safe place. I mean, you can memorize your number, or you can write your number on a piece of paper or something. Or what I've done at home, because I have my husband's Social Security number in our telephone book. Now, what's the likelihood somebody's going to look in my phone book at home? But I put zeros in 3 places, so I know where the zeros are. They don't know where the zeros are, so they're not going to get his Social Security number. So disguise it. But I wouldn't carry it. I really wouldn't carry it. If that gets lost or stolen, that is like gold. A Social Security card, you can go into a DMV and get a driver's license, because you now have a Social Security number. You get a driver's license. From that, now you can get a credit card. From that, now you can get a loan. I mean, it just builds. So
by the way, there are at least 8 people in the country that have your Social Security number, legitimately. So somebody taking that Social Security number and going to the driver's license in a different name works. There just aren't enough numbers to go around, right?
Instructions, Medicare, if you have an accident or you have to go to the emergency room, they're going to want to see your Medicare card.
Yeah.
So hopefully you just kind of give it to them later or something.
They can wait.
Yeah.
This time of the year, there's a lot of calls too being made, people claiming they're from the IRS.
Oh yeah, that's a good one these days, right? I don't speak to IRS under any circumstances. So
Yeah.
it doesn't work on me.
The only way the IRS legitimately is going to contact you is with a letter.
How do we report those IRS things? Does anyone care?
Yeah.
Who should we call? to tell them that the IRS called me again?
I'd start with the same thing, start with the police station.
Okay, the
traffic
local
point,
police?
You know,
Okay.
Secret Service would be interested.
Not Secret Service.
Reporting IRS fraud.
Okay.
It-
You know what, I'm going to add that to our,
Yeah.
I'll add that to our,
Because again, they're looking
Presentation.
for patterns, they're looking for, who's at it now?
yeah, and that's something else. You just don't want to give them any information.
I got one like that, and,
Phone call?
yeah, a phone call saying, there's a problem with your IRS, and would you please call this number? Ha, ha, ha. And so I called the FTC and got some very interesting people there who were very polite and said, since I called them, I assumed they were legitimate. It's the same one that you had up.
Well, if it's the
And-
same number, then,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I felt like, okay, I've taken care of it.
good, good. Yeah, report it to somebody. They can always tell you who else to send it to.
Is there an online backup service that allows you to encrypt your data at your source, and they do not have the key? So if you lose your key, it's toast.
I don't know.
And generally, that if you have encrypted data and you lose the key, it is toast.
But some of the online backup services, they have either a kill test or they encrypt it and they can get you. But, I don't want them to get it.
Exactly, and
yeah.
therefore, I wouldn't use them.
Well, and that's what this whole issue with the FBI and Apple is right now. FBI has said, we want to get into the Apple computers that the guys that killed the people in San Bernardino, and they've filed a lawsuit. They've told, and the court said, Apple, you have to let the FBI in the back door, and Apple is saying it's encrypted. We're not going to break into that system, even though these people are killers. We're not going to break into this system. We don't have a back door in. So it depends on what encryption you're using. There is some encryption out there that is unbreakable. There is encryption that you can use, but somebody else is going to have the key. That's going to be completely up to you on how you want to handle that. If you forget it or lose the key, then you know somebody else has it, but how much do you trust them? It's a trust issue.
This is not a question, but a comment. I think it would be really great if you would put those 8 points on a little card that you could hand out to all the attendees of your presentations.
We can do that.
This
presentation
is being recorded, and you can find it on past events for UMR. So if you're signed up and you get our YouTube things,
Yep. Something to stick in your
She's
wallet, right?
got to delete all the bad comments.
that's right. I'm going to have to trim it all down.
Yes, sir.
You wouldn't believe what happened. One time, I went to Casey's and I got gas, and I used a credit card, and then somehow I must have had suspected something. But that afternoon, I called the credit card company, and they had the gas. I got a Casey's, which is okay, and they had a charge from North Carolina. And that Eastern, I've been there, but not, the other parts of that state, but never, not since 1954, before
Right.
Most of you were born.
You've brought up a very good point.
And I don't know how that got there.
I'll explain it. There's a thing called a skimmer. Okay, it's very similar to the thing that I was telling you about that can copy the magnetic strips. Well, they also have skimmers that bad guys have been putting on gas pumps. So it loads where you would slide your credit card into the pump. It actually records as you're sliding it in, and it's a piece that is mounted on top of the pump. So the gas stations are now more and more aware of it, and they go out and they look for these skimmers, but, a guy can pop it on there, and you can use your card and the next guy's card and the next guy's card, and they've got, 5 before the gas station knows that it's... So be very aware when you're using a gas pump, and apparently, and I think it's the Holiday gas stations, the pumps are constructed so the skimmers can't work. They can't be mounted on the pump, because it's something that there's nobody there. It's a piece of equipment that is just, and it looks flush with the pump. So that's probably what happened at Casey's. They probably had a skimmer on the pump. You slid your credit card in, pulled it out, you got your gas, but they got your information. And they then proceed almost immediately to rack up some expenses. So that's, I would guess that you got caught by a skimmer.
And I didn't lose anything, but it was a
Yeah.
hassle trying to get
Well,
this.
as long as you report it right away, you won't lose. The credit card companies will make
We'll
good
eat
on
it.
that. So,
Somebody back there with the mic, Debbie.
oh,
I have a comment and a question.
okay.
I have my credit card account set up so I get a text message whenever there's a transaction. So if anybody steals your credit card or whatever, you immediately know it because you'll get a text message and it's not something you just purchased.
That's great.
Yeah.
I didn't know that even existed.
I don't know, it
Yeah,
works
but
for
it
my
drive
credit
you-
card or whatever.
Yeah.
It works great. The other question is, do you have any comments about VPNs? If you want to use public Wi-Fi or whatever and using a VPN, do you have any recommendations?
I've heard of it, but I can't comment on it because I don't know enough about
Okay.
how it works.
Okay, it's
I
a personal
apologize.
private network and it
Yeah.
encrypts your messages or whatever. but
Right, right.
I
And
don't
it-
know enough about them either to know which is good and which is
Yeah.
bad or whatever.
virtually private network, VPN, yeah. Just don't know enough
If you're going to
about
be
it.
traveling a lot or using a computer outside your own net, then I would suggest that you get one of these hotspot devices that you can buy, so you are your own
It's a personal
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. Okay.
It would be worth the investment.
And I think they run, I don't know, I think they run like $25, something like that, but wherever you go then, I'm sorry? $50 a month?
Yeah.
Okay. There was another question over here, yes? You know what, I don't, the question has to do with a password manager. And you get the option sometimes of, on your computer, do you want us to save this password? You've seen that when you pull up. Or you have the option of putting all your passwords on your computer in one place so that you can push one button and it tells you what your passwords are. I don't trust them. I figure if it's in the computer, then somebody else can see it. So now I've just given them all my passwords. So that's just me. I've got friends who absolutely swear by them because they use very complex passwords and they can't remember them. So they put it in this password manager and then they encrypt the password manager. And they only have to remember one thing and then all their stuff is, all their passwords are right there for them. I just won't put it in the computer.
Go with Trump hates Hillary.
You guys have been great. Really, really
Really
appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Ann?
Take a,
Okay. Chris Chris, there we are.
there you go.
You win.
The limited edition
You're the
UMR
winner.
backpack. Thanks everyone for coming.
I hope this was helpful.
I will get this. This one should film. It should have taped properly, so it'll be up within the week. And you have to go to past events to find it and such. But if you're signed up to receive our YouTube videos, then you should get it in about a week.
Thank you. She was headed for it in just a sec.
Real quick, thank you so much.
Oh.
This is very interesting. Do you feel that texting is safe?
It depends on what you...
Overseas right now,
Yeah,
and I'm
it's-
taking care of some of his banking, and he'll send me
It's
some-
more of an open email, so it's
Okay.
more easily monitored.
That's what I felt.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So just be careful what you say. But yeah, it's...